Y'all, what's going on? I am Crash This Goat, and I am this dark figure that has appeared on your screen once again. Doesn't mean I'm a bad person, though. Just because I'm dressed like this doesn't mean that I'm a bad person. Or does it? No, it doesn't. It doesn't mean that at all. I mean, do bad people sometimes dress like this? Yes, of course they do. But because of what they do while they're dressed like this, would make them potentially a bad person. But see, I dress like this, but I don't do anything bad. I don't do anything wrong. I just sit here and talk with you guys, and I don't think that's bad, is it? Because if it is, then yeah, I'm a bad. I would be a bad person at that point. But as far as I know, I don't think just doing a live stream while dressed like this qualifies as making me a bad person. But um, so we're here again. You know, we're here again, and we're going to have fun, and we're going to talk about some things. I don't know what yet, but I got some ideas about what we're going to talk about, and we'll just see how it goes. And I made this live stream. I set it up long in advance, um, before we're going live right now. But for some reason, it automatically put it to private, and I don't know why. So I thought everything was good. You would get the 30-minute notice. The thing automatically put it to private for some reason, and I did. I was looking. I was thinking, what the hell's going? And I noticed it was set to private. I was like, what the hell is that? And so there was no 30-minute notice that got sent out because of that reason. Maybe there was no notice at all whenever I went live. That wouldn't surprise me at all. So YouTube is kind of funny in that way. So anyway, there are some of you here, so I take it some people got notices. So I'm going to say hi to the people that are here, and then we'll get going. Chef, Pitchfork, Lucas, Stickman, Miki, Z, and anyone else? Anyone? No, not anyone else so far. So it's just us, like usual, just the skeleton crew, like always. Very small group of people here. Good quality people. It's quality over quantity, of course. Uh, if you get too many people in a stream like this, it does become kind of chaotic. It can be a little chaotic. So it's kind of a blessing. It's kind of a blessing to have a small number of people. That way, I don't get a bunch of people mad at me for not answering questions or whatever, or talking too much. I do get accused of talking too much sometimes while doing a talking live stream, which is kind of strange. I don't know what the solution would be for that, but it's okay. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just I've always just winged it. I've always just you know free flow, whatever you want to call it, no plan, and we always make it through 2 hours somehow. I don't know. It just kind of happens. I don't know. It must not be that great, because if it was, then I would have a lot of people here, right? Uh, so it makes me question y'all's taste a little bit, y'all's decision making, y'all's judgment. You must either you have super good judgment and the rest of the world just sucks, or the opposite. Maybe we suck and then the rest of the world is smart enough to not come in here. I don't know. Y'all decide. I'm kind of biased toward you guys though, as being of genius judgment. That's what we're going to go with. We're going to go with the fact that y'all are smarter and more distinguished than the general population, and that goes along with that coincides and that runs parallel to my belief system about the world. That's why I don't get into doing whatever the masses do, because usually the masses are following some stupid shit. They're falling for stupid shit and then following stupid shit that they fell for some kind of Oh, it's on TV, so you watch it, you know, or it's on the radio, so you listen to it, that type of thing. People say it's popular, so I want it too, you know, like that. Since everybody else says it's cool, so yeah, it's cool then with me too, because I want to be a part of the group. I don't want to be excluded. I want to be over here by myself. So is that where we're going? Is that what we're doing now? Okay, count me in. Just don't leave me out. Just don't leave me alone. That's kind of that's my impression of of a trend follower, a trendy person, a trendy. Stickman says, every time I open YouTube, you are on the front page of my YouTube. Yes, because if you come here regularly, YouTube will provide that to you. But if you're somebody new that's never seen this place, I don't exist. If you haven't been here before, or if you don't come here very often, I will not appear on your homepage. I will not be put in your recommended. YouTube, that's the way it works. YouTube is smart enough to know that people will notice. You, no matter who you are, most likely you're going to have some regular viewers. If it was to completely hide me, like it does from anybody new, but do that to the regular viewers, people would catch on that, hey, there's something going on here. There's some shady behavior. Because I like the stream, I click, you know, the bell, I'm subscribed, get all notifications, and I can barely even find the live stream. I got to search for it. It's buried in the 100th position in the search results, even though I'm typing in the actual name, Crash Disco 2 or whatever. That's what they do. That they'll drop you to the very bottom of the search results, so where nobody can find you. They will do that. Yeah, they will. I've seen it. So anyway, that's just, I mean, we're on YouTube and that's the way they are. So I guess I'm okay with it because I keep coming back here. I was thinking about switching over to Rumble though. I thought about it and I didn't do it. So I don't know. I thought about it and yet I did not do it. But that doesn't mean I won't do it in the future. Because I might have better results over there. Because I don't know. I mean, I don't know enough about Rumble, but I think to do a live stream, Rumble would probably be just fine. As far as putting writing content over there, I'm a little bit hesitant about doing that. I got a channel over there, and it's got a couple of videos on it, but that's it. Pitchfork says YouTube's default to top comments burns me the most. Why would I want to? Okay. Yeah, I see what you're saying. I don't know why they have a top chat and a live chat. It's just ridiculous. It's a safe space. They believe in safe spaces to where some people they have to put in live chat, which is separate. So not only if you're a content creator, you can just be a user of YouTube where you're watching videos and you may have left some comments that YouTube does not approve of. Those are kind of borderline, you know, they're not YouTube approved viewpoints, let's say, right? So what they'll do is they'll shadow ban you as just a regular user of YouTube. And then if you put a comment and you go to a completely separate video or live stream like this one, and you'll leave a comment, you won't show up in top chat. You have to, but you'll be in live chat. And that's, it hides you from everyone. And you have to know to go up to the top of the chat and then press top live chat in order to see everybody who's here. That's some bullshit. I've never liked that. I remember using YouTube when that didn't exist. You know, about 8 years ago or however long it was when they switched it. It's just, you know, why do all of this? It's like I said, shadow banning and visibility limiting and all that stuff. It's about control is what it is. then they'll say, well, it's about your safety and protecting, your eyes from reading something that we say you probably shouldn't read, and it's like, why are you getting in the middle of me and what other people are saying? You're providing the platform. It's like, why do you have to gatekeep some comments and things like that? Now, I understand if it's promoting like harm towards somebody, or like actual physical harm towards someone, or you know other things that are really frowned upon by society as a whole and are extremely illegal, stuff like harming children or something like that. Y'all know what I'm saying, right? Stuff like that, absolutely keep that shit off the freaking platform completely. We don't want that type of stuff. But if you're just having an opinion or a viewpoint or something about whatever it is that's being talked about or shown in a live stream or on a video, then we start to get into, like I said, thought control, mind control, thought gatekeeping, and so forth. Because freedom of speech is where information is exchanged between all of us. And if you can't freely exchange information, then that's a form of mind control that's being governed by someone else who's deciding what you get to think or know about. It's information hoarding or gatekeeping. And that has very dangerous implications for everyone. It's so much, and people need to not be protected so much in the sense of, like, we don't want somebody to read something offensive or something like that. See, I don't believe in intentionally offending anyone necessarily, but if something needs to be said that's the truth, or it's someone's opinion, that it really is up to the person who reads it or hears it to decide whether or not they're going to be offended by it. And if you block all of that stuff so to the point where it's so rare, and then you are not strong at that point. You've become weaker because you're not exposed to it, and you don't know how to deal with it. And then all of a sudden, if somebody says something like that somewhere, you're going to fly off the handle. You're not going to learn to control your emotions that way, and it makes you weaker, and it makes our society less strong. And we should all just have like thick skin and all that stuff anyway. If somebody talks shit about me or whatever, I just do my best to just not react to it. And that's the goal, because they will claim that hiding people's comments and things are about protecting people from being offended. It's like, but that's just an excuse to have the power to control people's thoughts through controlling speech, of course. But anyway, I don't even know why we're talking about this. Sonny, what's up, dude? How are you, man? The Sidewalk Star, what is going on? Alfie G, what's up? Yeah, flock cameras, yeah, that shit's no good. Red Catfish, what's going on, man? Sidewalk Star, I see what you're saying. I don't. I saw your comment, bro. Stickman says, "Have any of you spent 7 hours on a motorcycle ride? It made my ass hurt like a mofo." Any cures? I have actually. Whenever we go ride out in the country, we're out there like for most of the day. I get on the bike and like at 7:30 in the morning because they meet early because they want to get out there before there's a whole bunch of freaking slow traffic out there clogging up the turns and stuff. And they don't like buzzing around people too much, so they like to go really early. But by the time I get home, now we'll stop in a couple of places and stuff like gas stations, and then we'll get something to eat. And that gives us time off the bike. But it's an all-day thing on highly aggressive positioned sport bikes. Not everybody's on a sport bike by any means, but most of us. And yes, I know what the cure is. I know what the cure is to having your body hurt from doing that. You may not like this, but this is the truth. You have to do it more. That's it. You just do it more. And then your body will adapt to it. Just like if you're not in shape for running and then you go on a jog or something, you're like, after not very far, you're going to be winded and tired, and your joints are going to hurt. Your knees might hurt, your feet might hurt, your ankles, whatever. But then you start out kind of slow and you just do what you can, and then you do it again, and then again and again and again, and before you know it, you become what's known as in shape, right? Or your conditioning improves. Your body is basically saying, okay, we're not used to doing this activity, but just give me a little bit. Don't push me too hard, but then over time, I promise I'll be there. This is what your body is saying, when it's exposed to new activities. And riding a sport bike for that long, like a marathon or whatever, like a marathon ride, your body's just not used to it. Your body's not adapted to that. And in order to become more used to it, you just have to ride the bike more. And I've said this from the beginning when we started doing these live streams. I've known this for a very long time. I've always... And I don't mean to offend anybody. If any of you have said this, I'm not trying to be offensive, but I might be offensive. I'm not trying to be. But I'm just being honest with you, and this is what I think. I think, well, I want to say, well, they're just pussies. You know what I mean? You're just being a pussy. And what I'm saying is that for me, I started out on bicycles and then dirt bikes and then street dirt bike, enduros and stuff, and then onto street bikes. And all I ever wanted to do was ride the highest performance bikes that I could possibly obtain for myself. I've achieved that, with this bike, but I wasn't always like this. It took a long time to get here, over my lifetime. But I always wanted to ride the highest performance bikes, and in my opinion, they're the best looking. They're the best looking bikes. They're the best performing bikes, and therefore, they give me the best experience when I'm riding them. Okay, and then people are saying, well, I don't want to be uncomfortable on it though, and I'm like, okay, look, what are your priorities here? Are your priorities to be a badass and kick ass out there? Or are your priorities to be comfortable? It's like, and that's where I start thinking, like, maybe you just have a different set of priorities. Why are you even thinking about this kind of bike if your priority is to not have your ass hurt or something, or and they always say your wrists. But it's not your wrist. Your wrists do not hurt. But they always say, oh, my wrist. No, your wrists never hurt. If anything hurts, it's the palm of your hands that are resting on the bar. I feel that a little bit even after all this riding time on this bike. And I'm fully adapted to riding on these bikes. Fully adapted. I've been adapted for a long time. So people complain, they complain about their little handsies or wristies. That they don't even talk about their hand. That nobody even says their hand. It's almost like a conventional wisdom type of thing, where conventional wisdom is anything but. It's not wise at all. Conventional wisdom is just what somebody heard somebody else say, and then they store it in their mind, and then in a different setting repeat it, and then that happens on a mass scale to create an idea or a concept that a large number of people think but isn't necessarily true. I mean, it may be true, but a lot of times it's not true at all. There's some kind of flaw in it where it's not exactly accurate. And this is one of those things where people talk about their wrist, and then they heard somebody say, yeah, your wrists are going to, and now it's just become the terminology to talk about the pain that somebody feels riding a sport bike in terms of this area of your body, right? Which is, I find it exceedingly annoying, because I don't know, it's just something that annoys me. I don't think about it much, but when I do think about it, I feel like it's an annoying thing, because it's not accurate. And it has this a little connotation of being a wuss to it, in my opinion. Now, if you have some kind of a physical ailment, there's something wrong with you to where you absolutely cannot do it, I fully get that. Then you can't ride sport bikes. That you're not physically able to do it. That's a completely separate thing. I'm talking about somebody who's in good condition, in good health, who's somewhat fit. And then they're thinking about, well, I want performance, but I don't want to hurt. And so I'm getting at something here. And so a lot of people will just go into naked bikes, upright naked bikes, because of whatever. But here's the and there's nothing wrong with that if that's what people want. But when people complain about the sport bike riding position, the reason is, and most people don't know this, I've never heard anybody say this except for me, just like all the other things that we talk about in here. Somebody else may have said it, but I haven't heard anyone say it ever. What I'm about to tell you. Whenever you first get a sport bike, it's going to feel uncomfortable to you, most likely, right? For me, for anybody, right? When you first get on it and you haven't been riding a sport bike, your body hasn't been in that position. It's not adapted to it. And you see where I'm going with this. So when you first start riding it, it's going to hurt. And you're not going to ride it for very long. And you're going to, wow, that was fun. But man, my hands are kind of sore or whatever. And then you're going to ride it again and again. And here's what's going to decide what type of person you are or what direction you go. All right. If you get that bike and you say, oh, no, this isn't for me. And then you just go, I can't do it. Well, you failed, basically. You failed to do what you need to do in order to ride this bike that you may have wanted to ride, but have decided that you can't because it hurts you. The thing to do, if it hurts you, keep riding it. Ride it as much as you possibly can. Ride it every day. Every day for an hour or however long, you're on your commute, whatever it is, whatever you got to do. Ride it as much as you possibly can, whatever that is. And after about a week, it's going to kind of hurt a little bit. But then when you get to the second week, you're going to start to kind of become used to it a little bit. And by the time you hit a month, you're going to be able to go a lot longer, and it's not going to hurt you as much. And then by the time you hit 2 months, you're not even going to even think about it anymore. There's two things that are going to happen. One, your body's going to adapt to it and become stronger, like with your core, like to hold yourself in that position. So your muscles are going to adapt to it. And then secondly, you're going to become used to the way it feels, like on your hands or whatever, and you're going to develop little ways of managing that by taking your hand off the bar or sitting up when you're just cruising, which you can do on a sport bike. See, so you'll think of, I mean, it'll just naturally occur. You'll just adapt the way that you ride, the way you hold your body, and your body is going to toughen up for it. But you have to get through that first initial stage of pain in order for your body to adapt to it. And then the pain, I don't feel any pain at all when I ride my bike. None. Zero. Because I ride it all the time. And that's how I know. But, I was going to say something. but I forgot. So um, that's the key. I mean, you just have to get past. You have to get past that initial phase, and then it'll become easier for you. Unless you have some kind of physical ailment or physical condition that doesn't allow that process to take place. Now, I have had lower back issues for a long time. Even before I bought my motorcycle, I've thrown my back out a couple of times and this, that, just because I've done so much physical labor and weightlifting and stuff over the years and been over like working on engines and shit like that, building things. So I was thinking, before I bought the R6, I was thinking, man, I kind of have a little bit of back problem. What if I buy this bike and I won't be able to ride it because my back hurts or whatever? Is that going to be a problem? Am I going to buy this bike and then I'm going to have to park it and not even be able to ride it? Well, I'm willing to take that chance. That's what I said. Well, I'm just gonna get it anyway, and I'll just either power through it, or if it's too bad, then I'll just deal with that whenever it happens. But I wasn't sure. My back's okay. I do have to be kind of careful with it. I've learned how to not lift or twist it in the wrong way. So then when I got the bike, it didn't hurt my back at all. Not even a little bit. So if you have back problems, I guess depending upon what your back problem is, but I've heard people say, well, I have bad back or whatever. It doesn't, being put into this position, it doesn't affect your back. It doesn't have anything, it doesn't play a role in exacerbating a lower back issue. Now, I guess, there are different types of ailments when it comes to people's backs and things like that. But I can tell you, at least for me, and mine can be significant. When I ride the motorcycle, my back is not affected in any way whatsoever. Not even a little bit. The longest ride that I went on was on the R6 when me and my buddy Jose, he had his 636, and he's like, let's ride to Austin, which was about 3 hours away, and we're going to go ride around the lake and stuff like that, and then just ride home. And that was much more than 7 hours. That was from early morning until after dark. We were on the bikes pretty much that whole time. We got off a couple of times, to get gas or whatever, and then to eat. We went and ate at the Oasis or whatever it is there on the Lake Travis. But by the time on the way back, when you're just out in the freaking country road, it's a highway like through the country or whatever, and my hips from being like having my legs bent like on the pegs and just being in that position did start to hurt. But that was an excessively long trip, and I wouldn't want to do it again, not because I couldn't handle it or anything like that, just because it's really not that pleasant, and the bikes really aren't made for those long distances. But what I'm talking about is being able to ride it for an hour or so, like around town, get off, get gas, hang out for a little bit, and then go for another ride again, that kind of stuff. But the key to riding it and being comfortable on it is to ride it a lot. Just get out there and keep going, never give up, and then your body will adapt to it. So that's the key on that. Binks, what's up, Binks? What's up, dude? Dean, what's up? What's going on, Dean? How are you, man? And Seth is here. What's up, Seth? How are you, man? So, Knickknacks here. Did I say hi to Knickknack? Well, I just did. Thylacine, what's up, dude? Grip Tank, use core strength. Yeah, when we were just on the ride, what was it, yesterday? Yeah. The guy in the BMW, the one that was kind of following behind, he had tank grips on his bike. And he was asking me a bunch of questions throughout the day and stuff like that about how I ride and how I'm able to like move around through the cars and this and that. He goes, man, like how can you ride? How do you do that? You know, it's like he was trying to learn from me. And I was like, do what? And he's like, well, how can you just, you don't have to tuck or anything. It's like you're going like really fast. I mean, you don't even have to tuck. You're sitting up and whenever you want to turn, you can just be straight up and then just boom, 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 like this, like just turn like crazy. And I don't even see you like leaning off the bike to make it turn or anything like that. I said, honestly, I don't know, man. He goes, are you like pushing on the bars to make it turn like that? I'm like counter steering or whatever. Yeah. I mean, the way I do it is I just like pop the bar. I guess you don't even notice you're doing it. It takes such a minimal amount. You just, if you want to make a left turn, you kind of counter steer to the right slightly, and while you're leaning to the left, and then the bike just, it'll just go wherever you want it. It's really not, a complicated thing going on here. You just kind of counter steer opposite the way, and you lean the opposite direction of your counter steer, and the bike just boom, just falls like crazy, into the turn exactly where you want it. He goes, man, he said he hasn't seen anybody do that, or he's having trouble. And then he's like, and he pointed at my bike, and he says, you don't feel like you need tank grips? I said, no. And he said, I got tank grips on mine. And he had some on there that were like a BMW style, and it had some smooth surfaces on it. It had some like grippy areas, but a lot of it was kind of smooth. They weren't bad looking as far as tank grips go, but he's like, yeah, like I need to get some different tank grips because these are kind of smooth and they don't grip so good, and they kind of slide a little bit. And he goes, I noticed you don't have any. Don't you feel like you need them in order to ride like this? And I said, absolutely not. He goes, well, how are you doing this? Like, how are you riding? I mean, are you not like gripping the tank or something? And I was like, no, I mean, the tank, I've never used tank grips. I don't feel like I need them. It doesn't prevent me from doing anything I want to do. I just don't feel like I need those. He goes, he was kind of like, he couldn't believe it. And I was like, yeah, I mean, if you feel like you need them, go ahead and use them. But me personally, I never even noticed that there was a problem there. There's not even a problem for me at all. I guess people have different styles of riding. Some people grip the tank more, I guess. And I was talking with another guy. He said on his R1, he said he was out riding the other day and hitting a turn pretty fast, and his peg broke. On the inside turn, his right peg is making a right turn, and his freaking peg broke. I was like, really? Like, where did it break? Did it break at the pivot? He goes, no, it broke right in half, like in the center. And I'm like, how the hell does that happen? He goes, well, when I take the turns, I'm kind of holding my body off of the bike, almost like a jockey riding a horse. And I'm pushing down on the peg in order to make the bike turn. I said, really? And he goes, yeah, that's what people have advised me to do and stuff like that. I said, I don't do that. He goes, you don't? He goes, well, how do you turn? I'm like, well, I just, slightly lean off the bike a little bit. I don't even really need to lean off to hang off the bike that much. Not out here on the street. We're not doing that sharp of turns. And I said, has anybody adjusted your suspension or anything? He goes, no, I haven't. It feels really tight where it's like too much bumps and stuff. I said, man, really what it sounds like to me is you just need to adjust your suspension for your body weight. And then you won't need to feel the need to lift yourself off of the seat when you're in a turn. I said, that's got to be exhausting for you. It has to be absolutely exhausting. He goes, yeah, it does get that way. I mean, he said he was kind of used to doing it because he'd been doing it for a while, but I was like, I don't ride like that. I just hold my foot up with the peg. I push my foot way up on the peg so it doesn't hang down lower to where it'll drag. And then I just lean in the turn. And it depends on how much I'm leaning. And then that's how much I'll hang off. And if we're not doing too sharp of a turn, then you don't even have to lean off the bike at all, really. But that depends on what kind of road surface you're riding on too. If you're riding on asphalt, you better hang off, because then that'll keep your bike up straighter. The bike will lean less. But if you're on concrete, if you're going good concrete, then your bike ain't going to slide out on that. So different styles of riding require tank pads and that kind of stuff, but I've never felt the need to use them. A lot of people swear by them and stuff, but I've never used them. Dean, $20 super chat. My man, thank you very much. Says, didn't know you were live. I'm thrilled to see it. Really? I had a live stream placeholder. Didn't mean to overlap with you. I didn't see any notifications. Teach me how to do 200. I'll teach you how to do 940 miles on a super bike. Yeah. See, Dean went across the entire country and back on his CBR 1000, which, talk about it, the iron butt challenge or whatever, right? Oh my God. You're way tougher than I am, Dean. Look, I love riding my sport bike. I do. But I don't think there'd be any way I could go across. I mean, I could do it. I could absolutely do it. I don't think there'd be any way I'd want to do it, to be completely honest. Nobody is more hardcore of a sport bike rider than I am. To me, there are no other motorcycles. There are no other motorcycles that exist in my mind when it comes to motorcycles that I would want to ride, at least at this stage in the game, pretty much. I'm just trying to make a very profound point about how I think and how I feel. So nobody has more passion, nobody has more love, and nobody has more desire to ride the most aggressive position sport bike as you could possibly get than me. But there would be no way I would sign up for riding a sport bike as much as you did across all over the country like that, from state to state to state, and in the weather. But hats off to you, man. I mean, you're way tougher than me. I understand where you're coming from, though, because you had it as a goal. You had a reason to do it. You had something motivating you. And that's what it would take. There would be something that would absolutely need to motivate in order to make that possible. And that's what happened. Believe me, I understand. But for me, I don't have that thing motivating me to do that. I wouldn't mind traveling to other places with my bike in some kind of a vehicle that I could ride in. Well, Goat, you're not that hardcore. Well, compared to you, Dean, you're absolutely right. I'm not even close to hardcore when compared to you, for sure. But that's just where I'm at. I would not want to. I wouldn't want to be there. I just wouldn't. Ruda. What's up, Ruda MX? Ruda MX. What's going on? Bezzy's here. What's up, Bez? Thylacine says, I really like tank grips. Stops me from smashing my balls into the tank. Really? Well, if it works, man, I fully support you. I fully support having tank grips for anybody who feels like they need them and want them. What I'm thinking about when I'm riding, and while I'm riding, I am not thinking about tank pads or tank grips or needing it in any way. I I do need to protect my balls on occasion, though, and I will tell you what it is. But it's not because of sliding forward. I don't slide forward. I already am all the way up on the tank anyway. I don't. Some people like to sit back a little further, and the only time I ever scooch my backside back to as far as I can is if I'm going into a complete tuck on a top speed run, or like doing a roll race. Then I will fully close myself in and scoot back as far as to make myself as streamlined as possible. But whenever I'm riding, just normal riding, when I'm out doing whatever I'm doing, I'm already up on the front of like where the tank is. I'm already there, so there's no place for me to slide into. I'm already there. But like I was saying, I've been smacked in the balls on more than one occasion by the seat. The seat has got me. And the way it happens is when you hit a bump and you kind of slightly raise yourself off to kind of soften the blow of when you know that there's a bump there, because you know the road, which is what you should do. You should know the road. I know the roads I ride on. I know where the bumps are. So I slightly jockey myself and lift myself off the seat a little bit. And sometimes the bike will like pop up and your balls are right there and it goes pack. And it's like, oh, fuck. And it's sometimes it's not so soft. Sometimes it's a nice thumping. Yeah. And it's hit me so hard to where I got that stomach ache, and it makes you like, and then it slowly dissipates. But that initial wave that comes in, oh my God, that is painful. But it almost makes you want to like curl up into a ball, like somebody racked you. That's basically what it is. But you can't lose your composure because you're traveling down the road on a motorcycle. You know what I mean? It's not like you can just curl up into a ball. You have to just take it. You have to just take it and maintain your focus. You know what the trick to avoiding that is wearing gear like riding pants. If you wear riding pants, the pant material locks you in. It supports you better, right? All aspects of your body, your legs, your balls, whatever, But if I'm wearing looser pants, like sometimes I'll wear sweatpants and shit, right? I do that. And if I'm doing that, and if I hit the frickin' bumps like that, then yeah, I get smacked in the balls on occasion. Not fun. That's not one of the funner aspects. So anyway. So yeah, I've done that. Hey, Sir Andrew, what's going on, man? Hey, Linnell, what's up? Mr. Mime, what's up, Mr. Mime? So anyway, there is a lot of rain in the forecast, of course. So I bet y'all want to hear about the bike, right? Y'all want to hear about the bike and what I think? Because we haven't talked about that. We haven't talked about the big elephant in the room, which is the fact that after 3.5 weeks of waiting for my bike, I did finally get it back. I did. It was a long wait. It's very painful, to be without the bike. I mean, in the sense of, man, if you like to ride and you can't ride, so you like to ride and you can't ride, that's one. And number two, if you hate traffic as much as I do, and then number three, I have a YouTube channel and I can't create any videos during that entire time. And man, it hurts. It hurts my channel a lot. To be without the bike that long, it hurts my channel. It hurts my income on my channel. It really does. Took it down several $100s. I mean, it's a lot, right? So there's the cost of the cost of getting the work done, and then there's the cost of loss of revenue from making videos, and it makes a difference. If I go a month without making videos, it really hurts me. But it is what it is, you know. So I just had to deal with it. I made 2 videos during that time period. I made one on my buddy Rob's S1K, which I'm very thankful. That was kind of in the beginning. And then the second video was on the bicycle, like through the park or whatever, and that was it. No, hardly anybody watched that. It's got like 700 views on it. It's not a big view getter for some reason. I mean, it's not an exciting video. People subscribe to this channel to watch me on a motorcycle, I guess. But bicycles, I love bicycles, and I love riding my bike. I rode it today. I rode my bicycle today, and then it makes me feel really good. It makes me feel, it keeps me in good shape. My heart and my cardio and all that, it really helps a lot. And the muscles in my legs and all that stuff, it makes your legs firm and everything. And it makes you feel good. Gives you energy, natural energy, so that you don't feel tired during the day whenever you go to work or do whatever. It's a natural energy source. So it works really good. But anyway, nobody wants to really see me on a bicycle, even though it is an important thing. So those are the only 2 videos that I made. But I do have the bike back now. And when I went and picked it up, the bike looked perfect. And it was in the rain too. When I went and picked it up, it was raining that day. And it was pouring rain when I drove over there. And then whenever I picked the bike up, it was no longer raining, but the roads were completely soaked. So I did not get wet, really that wet. I got a little bit wet on the back of my legs and stuff because the air circulates around the back. I didn't get any on the front. It's always the back because the air circulates back behind your legs and your back and stuff. But it wasn't bad. It was just damp. It wasn't that bad. So, but the bike looked perfect. Like there was nothing wrong with the bike. There were no scratches. There was no grease on the bike. It was completely clean. All the screws were in the right place and everything. So, everything was good. Everything was really good. And when I rode the bike, it sounded better than it did when I dropped it off. It kind of had like a weird sound to it a little bit, like this weird echoey sound, and then one side sounded different than the other because it has a separate exhaust pipe for the front cylinder bank on the left side, and it's got a separate exhaust for the cylinder bank, the rear cylinder bank coming out the right side. And that one sounded a little different than the one in the front, although the pipes are not equal length. So I didn't know. But then when I picked the bike up, I listened for it, and it sounds the same on both sides now. And I asked him, I said, so, just out of curiosity, because I was several thousand miles over when the Desmo was due to be done. And the front cylinder bank, it was longer than the rear cylinder bank because the rear cylinder was newer than the front one. So when I had the Desmo done last time, they were done with both of the original cylinder heads. But then one of those the rear one got replaced and redone. So it was, the valve clearance was done at the time whenever that rear cylinder head was put on, the new rear cylinder head. So the front one was still going off of the original, and that was at 16,000 miles. The bike has 41,000 now, so it did not have any valve clearance check from the time it was at 16,000 all the way to 41,000 on the front cylinder bank. So it was like 7,000 miles overdue or something like that. I forget. I checked it I added it up the other day, but it was something like 7,000 miles past. And so I asked him out of curiosity. I said, so I bet they needed a lot of adjustment, right? And he goes, no, actually, they really didn't. They were all in spec. Every single one of your valves was in spec except for one. And it was an intake valve. And I can't remember which cylinder bank it was, the front or the rear. Um, but it wasn't even that far out of adjustment. All of the valves were in spec except for that one, and it needed a very slight adjustment, and that was it. That's mind blowing. Um, how is this possible? Right? Number one, the bike's been stock for most of the time, right? And so it's had the factory paper air filters in there, and it had the restrictions on the motor and all that stuff from the factory tune. All right, it had the factory exhaust on it, which was very restrictive. But and then I changed the oil like every 1,500 miles, maybe two. I don't even think I've ever gone 2,000 miles. And I always use the Ducati brand Shell oil. It's 15W50 Ducati brand Shell oil, full synthetic. I've always used the Ducati oil, and that oil works really good, obviously, right? So regular maintenance, keeping it stock for that entire time, I would have to say that probably contributed to this result, and especially the air filter. The air filter. Why do I say that? Because what causes valves to need adjustment? I think it's the wear, right? Whenever the valves are going up and down on the seat, they're slapping closed up against the valve seat, and the air and the exhaust is flowing past these valves. I mean, that's what they do. They regulate, the exhaust and the intake. And so if that air is dirty, let's say it's not getting that good of filtration, there's going to be like little sand particles that will get caught in the valve seats, right? Where the valve seat closes, the valve meets up against the valve seat in the head. And I would think over all those billions of times that the valves open and close, that eventually that would cause some wear that would put the valves out of adjustment, right? Because it would erode the valve surface and the valve seat. And then that's what would cause the valves to become too tight or out of adjustment, right? So the fact that I had a factory air filter in there getting maximum filtration kept the air really free from any sand or dust particles to get in there. And I think that is, if I was to guess, that's probably the number one contributing factor as to why the valves were all in spec. And then I never abuse the bike. I don't abuse the bike. I've always said this. And this is confirmation. To me, this is what do you call it? Proof that I haven't been abusing this bike at all, because it's in great shape, even after 41,000 miles. So you got these things that I mentioned. It's factory. It's got the factory filter in it. I always change the oil. I use the recommended oil, and I keep the bike clean, immaculate at all times. Even though I ride it in the rain sometimes, I always clean it right away. I keep the bike really clean. Keeping the outside clean, you would think, well, what does that have to do with the inside of the motor? Directly, maybe nothing. But if you're the kind of person to keep the outside of your bike clean, I would say that there's a direct line, there's a direct link, a correlation to also doing the rest of the maintenance properly that you need to do. Now, I went over on the Desmo service. That is true. But as far as the other maintenance, keeping it, the oil change and all that stuff. And I always replace the air filter too. When I had the factory filters in it, I'd put a new air filter in it every other oil change. For $40-50, and whenever I'd pull the air filter out, the paper filters, they had a little bit of sand or something in there, but they weren't that dirty. You could still see light through them, but I would change them and toss them anyway, because I wanted number one, I wanted to have the most airflow as I could possibly get. And then number two, I just wanted to be sure that nothing was getting in the motor. And so the valve clearance being all in spec after all this time and riding the bike I don't want to even say hard, but I use the power that comes with this bike. There's no doubt about it. Y'all have all seen the videos. I mean, I'll push the freaking bike. This is what I'm doing. But this is confirmation that what I'm doing is not hurting this bike at all. Not even a little bit. It's in great shape. It looks amazing and it performs great. So, and then when they check the valves and they're all in spec except for one little intake valve that needs just a little bit of adjustment on it, I'd say that's a huge win as far as letting me know that the way I'm treating this bike is working to keep it good. And I'm very happy about that. So you would think, well, like, how much did it cost, Goat? Well, typically in a Desmo, they will do the valve adjustment, and then they will, you get new valve cover gaskets, you get new spark plugs, you get new oil and filter, and you'll get a new air filter. If you're still on the factory filter, they would replace that. And then the hydraulic fluids get get drained and flushed with new hydraulic fluids, not the forks. And then they'll check the chain if it needs anything adjustment or whatever. And that's what you get with a Desmo. I don't think I'm forgetting anything. And then on mine, I told him, I said, we don't need to do anything with the hydraulic fluid because I've already maintained those. I've already done it. And then they did not end up doing the oil change because I told you guys, remember how they said like the bolts were spinning or something like that? And I asked him, I said, whenever I did the oil change, and I did it 1 week before I dropped it off with you guys, so, and I'm the one that put those two bolts in there, and I know that they were both good. So he goes, okay, that's great. But whenever he saw them and had that one missing, because there's three and one was missing, and he said, yeah, we just, without possibly changing the oil pan or whatever, we didn't really want to take it off and not be able to put it back together. I said, I am totally fine with that. So they took that expense off of the ticket, like the hydraulic flush, and then they took off the oil change as expenses and the air filter and stuff like that, right? Because they didn't have to do any of that stuff. They just did the spark plugs, the valve cover gaskets, and then the valve adjustment. That's really what they did. And then whenever I was there, I just bought the oil and filter. And then when I got the bike home that night, I did my own oil change and filter replacement. And I checked those bolts, and they were both there. Both of my bolts were still there. So I'm very happy about that. So far I haven't had to do anything with the oil pan. And then the battery that they were talking about, it just, when it was sitting there for so long, it kind of went dead because it's the original battery. It's a lithium battery, the original battery. But they charged it, and then now it's it's working fine because I'm keeping it going. I'm keeping it running, and it's keeping it charged. So, and I have an extra battery downstairs in the garage. So if this one quits, then I have another one already ready to go that I already bought a few months ago. So that's where we're at on the bike. So the bike's got the Desmo done now. It's got the tune, the exhaust, the filter, and then it's got new front bearings that I put in. It's got a new hub. It's got new chain sprockets, and the tires are good. The next thing I need to do now is replace the front brakes. And I would like to do a brake flush and clean out the I would like to rebuild the calipers. I have the front caliper rebuild kit. I just haven't done it. I mean, they're working fine. So, I mean, it would be nice to do it, but I have no rush on that because they're working fine. But it is going to need new front brake pads. So they've got a little bit more life lift in them, but we're good to go on that for now. So overall, and the bike looks amazing because it's got all the new fairings on it too. So it does need a new windscreen though, because it's got some chips in it and stuff. That just happens. There's nothing you can do about that. So this is the third windscreen that I've had on the bike, but I'm going to need another one. And when you put a new fresh windscreen on it, it makes the bike look new. So that's pretty cool. And then so I'll be getting one of those at some point. And what else? The bike's running good. Performs good, handles good. Everything's good on it. The other thing that they did was they reset the service needed light that was on the dash. And when I rode it home from the dealership, I didn't notice when I picked it up, but it was in sport mode. I guess it defaults back to sport mode or something if they reset the light. That's what I'm guessing. But I run it in race A. But it felt fine in sport mode. It had full power and everything set on it. So, I mean, you can adjust any of the modes the way that you want them, whether it's race A, race B, sport, or rain, or whatever the other one is, street. I think sport, street, and rain. So it's got like 5 different mode settings that you can program all aspects. So just because it says sport, it doesn't mean you won't get full power with the bike. I mean, you can customize each one of those settings to where they'll be any way you want them to be. So anyway, that's the news on the Duck, and it's sitting downstairs in the garage right now with fresh oil in it and with the fresh man. It feels good. It feels good to know that the bike is in great shape. Before I dropped it off to get the Desmo, I knew it was past due for it, and I didn't know if the valves were all tight or anything like that. I had no way of knowing. And that was kind of like knocking on my head a little bit. Like, you got to get this done. You got to get this done. You got to just drop it off. Just take it in there. Get it done. And I finally did. And it's worth every penny. It ended up costing me, with the oil that I purchased, it cost me like $2,370. $2,370 is what it cost me. And it's worth every penny to know that people that I trust did the work, and to know that the bike is in great shape, and to also know that everything I've been doing up until this point has been right for this bike. I haven't damaged it in any way by riding it the way that I ride it. That is super important to me. And having them check it all out, and they didn't notice anything else wrong with it. The only other thing that I've mentioned to you guys was the fact that it was consuming some oil. But I just did the oil change. I've rode it one time out on Sunday, but it wasn't for very long. And I've checked the oil, and it appears to be at the exact same level that it was whenever I first put it in. So I went and rode all day, not all day, but during the day on Sunday. And then when I got back, the oil level didn't look like it had changed. And the oil was still completely fresh and clear even after riding it all day. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pay attention as I ride it over the next week or so to see if the oil drops any. And some oil consumption is normal for these bikes because they have low friction piston rings, which allows some of the oil to seep by a little bit, but some of it is normal. And I was watching a Bryn Toon BT Moto channel, and they were talking about the new V4R and all that stuff, and he said that thing used a half a quart when he went and rode it. That it's a brand new V4R. The thing it's a 26 V4R, and he said that thing used a half a quart whenever they were riding it, and that was completely normal. Now that's a single ring piston. It's a little bit different than the V4S, but I can imagine that the V4S is probably not too different. It's probably, pretty similar. And then also on that video, I don't know if you guys watched it, but the V4S is by far the better bike over the V4R. The V4S is the 1100 cc bike, and the V4R is a 1000 cc, roughly. And the V4S makes way more power, like through most of the RPM range, which is typically where you're going to be using, right? Where you're going to want your power is through most of the RPM range. The only time the V4R made more horsepower was at the very, very top. And, that's fine. You just got to rev it out more in order to maintain that type of power. But the V4S, I mean, like on the dyno chart, it had a difference of like an inch and a half higher power on the dyno chart on the screen, like all throughout the mid-range. The V4S was a far better bike. And he even says that. He goes, if you're going to be riding on the street, get the V4S. Forget about the V4R for the street. But if you're going to ride track, then the V4R might be better. But I don't even think the V4R would be really any better on the track than the V4S would be, honestly. Pitchfork says, Goat, Discord, curious on opinion as to what that is in Linnell's brake system. Let's check it out. What could possibly be in a brake system? Let's see. Linnell, right here, it says, I put, and this is on a Grom, by the way, on her Grom. I put new front brake pads on Trudy, which is the name of her Grom, and then something crazy came out of the rotor when I was finished, or when I was flushing the fluid with a little worm symbol here. So let's look at the first picture. God, what a mess. Nasty. Nasty. Okay, this is just debris and stuff. What is this, like grass or weeds or something like this, where the bike has been ridden through the grass? Probably just got caught up in there, and it's got all of this gunk and stuff in here. You want to clean all that stuff out. And these are the caliper pistons here. So it looks like it just has single-sided pistons here that pinch up against this side over here. So you got a brake pad on this side and then one on this side, and the rotor will go in between. That's normal. And then there's a lot of debris here, but I don't think this is what we're really looking at here, is it? So I'm just going through these pictures. There's the new pads. And then rebuilding them here. It's much cleaner now, as you can see. A lot less debris here. But what is this? Are you talking about this here? Like, I have no idea what that is. Is that like a grommet or something? I don't know. Oh, this is what we're looking at. That right there would probably be because water got into it and then caused some of the brake fluid or some impurities in the brake fluid to harden up, basically. Like fuel. You know how fuel, like if you leave it in your carburetor and you don't ride your bike for a while, how the carburetor would get all gummed up with tar. It kind of turns into, the fuel turns into kind of like a gel. And I'm thinking that's probably what's happening here. Like you're squeezing it out and it's coming out here, trying to bleed the brakes, and it's got this stuff in here. But yeah, I would just keep bleeding the brakes until that all came out, and to where that wasn't even there anymore. because you don't want that. That's not going to be good. That's not going to be good for your braking. Just keep bleeding it until you get it out. But ideally, if you saw something like this, you would want to do more than bleeding. What you would want to do is you would want to disassemble the calipers and rebuild them. Pull the pistons out. You would want to pull these guys out here. And when you pull these out, then you can get in there and look inside and clean whatever's that stuff is inside there. And then that would be recommended, I would think. But you've already got it cleaned up here and looking a lot better. And then you got some kind of strange freaking worm inside there. It could be just dirt or something that's accumulated at the bottom. Was the bike sitting? Where's Linnell? Linnell, are you here? Has the bike been? Look at that. Like, what is that? That's weird. I would want to like pull it out of there and like feel it and figure out what it is. Is it? It would have to be soft in order to fit, to reshape itself to fit through here. Yeah, Linnell, rebuild. And see, that's what I was talking about with mine. I plan on rebuilding mine at some point, but mine don't have anything like that in it. I have no idea what that is, except for just some debris. Pezzy says it's a booger. Um, Linnell, was this bike sitting for a long time before you got it? So let me try something here. Let me try something. What can turn brake fluid into a solid inside the braking system? Okay, look right here. Hang on. All right. I said, what can turn brake fluid into a solid inside the braking system? It says brake fluid can turn into a thick gel, sludge, or crystalline solid inside the braking system, primarily due to severe moisture absorption. Just like my first guess was some water or moisture got in there, and then it turns brake fluid into a thick gel, sludge. That's what we're seeing, sludge. That's what it is. Crystalline solid inside the braking system, primarily due to severe moisture absorption, fluid incompatibility, or extreme oxidation. So, according to this, it's also saying if two different types of fluid were put in there, maybe somebody put in some transmission fluid or something, because it's kind of red looking, right? Look, Linnell, from the looks of that bike when you first got it, oh my God. Let's just say that I did not get the impression that those people were taking good care of it. And what does that tell me? What that tells me is those people, whoever they are, would have no problem grabbing anything off of the shelf in their garage, if they saw that their brake fluid was low, they were probably like, man, what are we going to do? I don't know, man. We need to put brake fluid in it. Okay, so let's see what we got. Let's go to the garage. All right, man, we don't have any brake fluid, but we have some transmission fluid. Yeah, I mean, why wouldn't that work? It's oil, right? I mean, it's the same thing. It's brake fluid. It'll work, man. Just give it to me. Let's just top it off, and that way we can get going. I could see that happening like so easily. That is not outside the realm of possibility. It could be some incompatibility of fluids is what it says. So if you blend it has brake fluid and then you put some other type of fluid in there, it's not compatible. It's not gonna work. It's not gonna gel. But in this case, it's gonna gel. But you don't want it to gel. But it's gonna gel when you don't want it to gel. So that is most likely why. Andrew says commercials. Why does Goat have commercials on his stream? I've never had a commercial. Well, the monetization is on. Here, let's see. I'm gonna make everyone have a commercial right now. I don't know if it's gonna go to everyone, but I'm gonna hit the commercial button. Here we go. Boom. So, did y'all get a commercial? Did y'all get a commercial out there? Did you get an ad? Thylacine says you're all being duped by big fluid. All that shit is the same in the bottle. I don't know, man. I mean, I use .4. .4 is what the Ducati takes on the hydraulic clutch and on the brakes. So I wouldn't want to put anything else in there. It says .4 is what you put in there, and I wouldn't put anything else in there. Would something else work? Could you put transmission fluid in there? Would it work? It probably would. I mean, it would probably function. But I think why do you absolutely have to use specific brake fluid over any other type of fluid? Okay, here we go. Why do you absolutely have to use specific brake fluid over any other type of fluid? You must use the vehicle-specific recommended brake fluid because hydraulic braking systems are engineered to function safely only within precise chemical compositions, boiling points, and viscosity. See, that was my first thought, is the boiling point, because the brakes get really hot. And if the liquid doesn't have a high heat rating, it can boil. And when it boils, then you get vapor inside of the system, and then there go your brakes. They won't work. If you get air, basically, some type of vapor or gas, it turns into a gas, no longer a liquid. Because when it boils, it turns into a gas. And then gas compresses, a gas will compress, whereas oil doesn't. But if you have gas inside, like air bubbles is what you would call it at that point, you won't have any braking. And I know this for sure because my rear brake on my Ducati, it's well known for this, the rear brake having a problem. And the reason why is not because it leaks air into the line, like through the cylinder, through the master cylinder, or through the lines, or through the caliper, or anything like that. No, it's not getting any air into it. What's happening is because that brake line, it's a metal brake line, a steel brake line that runs right through the rear swing arm, and it is super close to the rear header, and that heats up not only the swing arm but the air around that brake line, and it on a hot day and whatever, it causes it to boil inside there, and that was causing me trouble on my rear brake. But I kept bleeding it out, and now I don't have any problems with the rear brake anymore. It got better even with the factory system on there, the factory exhaust system. But now that I have the aftermarket exhaust system on there, a lot more heat just goes away, and the brake line doesn't heat up anymore. But when it was causing it to boil inside there, and that's what would cause my rear brake to stop working. And it would go down gradually over time. It would work for like 2 or 3 weeks, and I'd have to bleed it out again. And it had air bubbles in there, and the only way that they could get in there was from the boiling of the brake line. And I use .4 in there, and I don't have any problems with my rear brake anymore. It works great now. It's been working good for a while because I never gave up. But for the first 2 years that I rode the bike, I didn't even bleed it or mess with it. I tried to bleed it one time. I did not take the brake caliper off. I just tried to bleed it where it was, and it won't ever work because you have to put the brake caliper above where the master cylinder is. So you have to take the brake caliper off and then hold it up as high as you can get it, and then bleed it out. And then that's how the air will escape out of the system. And see, I didn't know that you had to do it like that until somebody told me. And then when I started doing it, I started to get it to work, but then it would only work for like 3 weeks, and then it would go out again. But for the first 2 years of me riding that bike, I was riding around with front brake only. I'm a person that likes to use rear brake. I know how to use rear brake with the front brake. If anybody out there is thinking I don't need rear brake, that's bullshit. If you're not using your rear brake, then you're not riding properly. Period. Okay, there's no arguing about it either. The rear brake is an adds additional stopping force for you to slow down quicker. Now, if you use only rear brake and not your front brake, like a new rider gets scared of the front brake, and so they only rely on the rear brake like they would on a bicycle, like when they were a kid, that's when they lock it up and then end up crashing. But the rear brake is really important on a number of levels. On emergency braking, it helps you slow down quicker. And also in emergency braking, now we've seen videos where people panic brake and their back wheel comes off the ground. Remember that one where the bike ended up on the light posts? It was hanging from the light post. Remember that guy? He braked right before he hit the car. He was panic braking, and the back wheel came off the ground. He wasn't using any rear brake whenever he was braking, because if he was, the back wheel would have stayed down on the ground. That's what the back brake does. It helps keep the rear of the bike down when you're braking hard with the front brake. It does. It has an effect when you hit the rear brake that it compresses the back of the bike. It lowers the back of the bike. See, if you only use the front, it's going to compress the front and the back is going to raise. The back suspension is going to uncompress. But whenever you use the back brake, the front then compresses. The front of the bike lowers because of some dive. But then when you use the rear brake, it brings the back of the bike level. It brings it only front brake, and then you add rear brake, and it brings you level down on the ground. And it keeps the back from raising up. That adds stability when you're heavily braking. You have to have your rear brake if you want to stop quickly and not flip over the front, right? Most people don't know this. Nobody knows this shit. Because if they did, you would hear them talking about it. And this is another thing that I've never heard a single person say on YouTube anywhere. I don't care if it's like a super experienced, well skilled person. I doing like some kind of video or something. I've never heard anybody say it. Maybe somebody has, but I've never seen or heard anybody mention exactly what I just said. How the rear brake keeps the back end of the bike down under heavy braking. Most people don't know that. Another thing that the rear brake does is it allows you to maneuver the bike more precisely at slow speed. If you're coming into a turn and you want the bike to turn a little bit sharper and easier, just add some rear brake. Drag your rear brake as you're turning into a turn. See what it does. If you go into a turn, like say you're just driving down the street and you're just making a right turn onto another street, drag your rear brake as you're making that turn, and you know what's going to happen. That turn is going to be like really sharp. It's going to make your turn really sharp. It's going to pull the front of the bike around more so than it would if you don't use the rear brake. Nobody knows that. I've never heard anybody talk about it. I've never heard anybody mention it. Nobody knows that shit. And when you're slow speed maneuvering like through something that may have some gravel or there's a little bit of sand on the ground, you can drag your rear brake just slightly as you're going around some stuff into some tight spaces, or if you're lane splitting around some cars, you can kind of just drag your rear brake, and that will help you turn the bike really easily. Maneuver the bike goes way up if you just drag your rear brake. Most people don't know that. What happens is new riders are afraid to use the front brake, and so they'll rely only on the back brake, and then they end up crashing. And then people learn, and then people know that, oh, freaking rookie mistake, he's afraid to use the front brake. And now here we go into conventional wisdom, right? This is a whole new cycle of conventional wisdom where it takes off and it goes too far in the other direction. So if using the back brake means that you're a noob, then being super experienced means that you don't even use back brake at all. Screw that shit. I'm so good, I don't even need back brake at all. See, now that's not true. That's not true. You do need to use your back brake. Can you get away without using it? Yeah, you can. But you're not able to ride the bike at as high of a level as what's possible without it. Your riding is at a much more advanced and higher level if you know how to use your back brake. And so you've got noobs that only use the rear brake and they end up crashing. It's a sign of being a rookie, right? Inexperience. But then other people take it so far. Well, I'm super advanced. I don't even use the rear. Fuck that shit. I don't even use the rear brake at all. But that's wrong too. They're both wrong, right? So the correct, and so that's a sign of super experience, right? No. That's a sign of you don't know how to use your rear brake, and what it means to use it is what it is. They put it on there for a reason. And on this particular bike, the Ducati, it'll add the rear brake for you without you even stepping on the rear brake. It has auto rear brake engagement on this bike. You can just use the front, and then it has cornering ABS, which is lean sensitive ABS, where it determines how much lean angle you're putting in, how much stopping force is being applied, and then it will add rear brake for you to keep you stable in a turn. It'll actually do it for you. Yes. Here, I'll show you. And let's see what it says. Does the 2022 V4S have auto rear brake? assist. I think it does. I already checked it. It's saying no right now, but auto rear brake. Okay. I could have sworn it did. Huh. It may be only on the newer ones then. It says no, the 2022 V4S does not have automatic rear brake application. That specific feature, known as Race ECBS, electronic combined braking system, was introduced by Ducati and Bosch much later on the 2025 Panigale. Okay, so it's only on the new one. My bad, my bad. I was sure because I checked it not too long ago. Emergency distribution. So it says while the 22 V4S features highly advanced cornering ABS, it operates in a traditional way. Manual control. You must manually press the rear brake pedal and engage the rear brake. Okay. So emergency distribution. The 22 ABS module will distribute braking forces dynamically during lockup. If you only grab the front, it modulates pressure to prevent the front from washing out, but it will not autonomously apply the rear brake to drag into turns the way the later systems do. So this is telling you how it'll drag the rear brake into turns. And why is that? Because it'll help you tighten your turn. It allows you to turn sharper if you drag your rear brake as you're going into a turn. But out on the street, out on really fast turns, you're not going to want to do that. You don't need to. But on the track, when you're coming in and you're leaning into like a sharp turn, yeah, then you would want to drag your rear brake a little bit. And then the 25 has it. The bike automatically does it, but the 22 doesn't. I had already checked that not too long ago, and I could have sworn it said that it did, but I guess it's only on the 25. So, Moreno Cholo, what's going on, dude? How are you? Jeff says, I love it here, by the way. Really? He says, go, brother, breaks down facts. Well, I try to, man. I try. Sir Andrew says, that's crazy. I do that manually. So you're telling me the duck does it for you? I'm fucking sold on the duck now. SP2, here I come. The new one, the 25 and forward has that. But the 22 that I have does not have auto rear brake. I thought that it did, although I've never felt it personally because I always do it manually anyway. I always use the rear brake. Whenever I hit the front brakes, I've got my foot on the rear brake. I use it. Absolutely. That if you're not if anyone out there is not using the rear brake in the way that I'm describing, you should. You should do it. You just like it's kind of like an art form. It takes your riding it opens up new capabilities in your riding that maybe you're not experiencing. I don't know. Kind of like rev matching on your downshifts. If you don't have an auto blip or something like that, and if you're not rev matching on your downshifts, that's okay. You don't have to. You can just kind of just downshift and just get away with it. But you're not really participating in the art form of riding as much as you could be if you're not like rev matching your downshifts. And the sound of a well done rev matching on your downshifts, it has a certain sound to it. It's just so pleasing. So using the rear brake is an art form that adds to your abilities and unlocks the full capabilities of your machine. Rev matching on downshift, that's also an art form that enhances your experience while you're riding. And it's just these are signs of experienced rider capabilities is what it is. And we all want to get the most out of our ride as we can, right? But knowing about these things is the first step in order to being able to utilize these capabilities. A lot of, like I said, has anybody ever said any of these things to anybody on YouTube? I certainly have. All of these experts, all of these big YouTube content creators, most of them, they don't know a lot about what they're talking about. You know, they leave a lot of stuff out because I just don't think they're aware of it. They'll talk about this bike or that bike or the latest release of this, or blah, they'll do their little reviews on stuff, but do they really know the bike? Do they really know these advanced techniques, these riding techniques that unlock the extra capabilities and performance of your machine? No, they don't, because if they did, they'd mention it. Yeah, so I'm sure there's people out there that do. I mean, of course, there's a lot of experienced riders that know these things, but I just haven't heard anybody say anything about it. You know, that most of the people that know this stuff probably aren't making YouTube videos. They're just riding like normal people, not like people like me, you know, that make freaking videos. Unnormal people. Kit Carson, what's going on? Sonny says, right. That's right. If you say right, that means you agree with me. And if you agree with me, that means you're super, super duper intelligent. Yeah, Andrew. Yeah, the Ducatis are just amazing. I didn't even have any clue that I was going to like mine as much as I do. I didn't know it was going to completely win me over the way that it has. I didn't know I was going to become like a Ducati person. I didn't know that. I'm still into the Jap bikes. I love the Japanese machines. I like the BMW. You know, I like them all. I like all of the bikes. But we were just talking up there at the dealership. I was talking with Brad up there at the dealer and Knuckles. We were just sitting there having a conversation when I was picking up the bike, and I was thinking, yeah, eventually I said I love this bike so much, and they were like, "You're right on," you know, and we were discussing how it's different than other bikes. And one of the ways it's different is it can just flick and change directions. Its flickability is unlike anything I've ever ridden. It is the most flickable bike I've ever ridden. It can just, like, effortless. And one thing I noticed was the R1, I thought, handled pretty good. The R6 handled better than the R1 as far as flickability. The flickability of the R6 was better than the R1. The R1 weighed about 40 pounds more or something, which isn't that much when you think about the power increase. But out on the highway, the R1, the stability of the R1 was very much appreciated by me, because the R6 was real twitchy out there, like over the bumps. It had no steering damper and didn't have the right tires on it, and my suspension wasn't dialed the way it should have been. But after I got the R1, I realized how far out the R6 was. So I got a steering damper, and I put better tires on it, and I worked on my suspension, and then the R6 became stable like the R1, and it was more flickable than the R1. Why am I saying this? Because I owned those bikes, but then when I got the Ducati, so I had the R6 and I became used to how flickable it was, but it was a little twitchy, but okay. So then I got the R1 after that, and I first got on the R1, I was like, wow, you can feel the extra mass in this bike. It doesn't change direction as snappy as the R6 does, which you would think would stand to reason, because it's lighter and the R6 sits up a little higher, and it's narrower, and it's just easier to move about. And then I got used to the R1. I thought everything was okay. I did some suspension adjustment, but then I got the Ducati, and then I was like, oh, it's like, oh my, this bike feels like the R6, but on steroids. It feels light like the R6, but it has twice the horsepower. It actually feels lighter and more flickable than the R6 did, if you can imagine that. So the R6 feels super light on its feet, super flickable, easy to manipulate and turn and everything. And then you get, and that's a 600. Then you get a bike, an 1100, almost double the engine size. It's just as light as the R6, but it has almost twice the horsepower. Just think about that for a second. And it has forged wheels, lithium battery, and a counter rotating engine, which offsets the gyroscopic effect of the wheels and tires. Just cancels it out, basically. So you've got a super light bike that with a motor that's canceling out the gyroscopic effect of the wheels. And then that makes the Ducati just feel like light as air. It makes it feel light as air and flickable beyond belief. You can't even imagine how flickable this bike is. I can make it change directions on a dime, like a UFO. It moves like a UFO is what it does. You know how UFOs just go pew, 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 like this, right? Well, that's what it feels like you can do with this bike. And what does that mean when you're riding it? It means that it changes your riding style completely. With the R1, you have to plan a little bit further out the direction changes that you want to make, which means you need more reaction time, which means you can't move as quickly through certain spaces as you can, as confidently as you do with the Ducati. So it's a confidence builder. It makes you feel more secure about what you're doing because you know you can get up closer to something and still move with less advance warning. So it's safer in that sense. It's safer. What did I always say? I said sport bikes are the safest bikes you can get because they stop the best, they turn the best, and they accelerate the best over any other of the other bikes out there. Maybe supermotos, are kind of in that range, but you guys get my point. Cruiser, you're screwed. You're on a cruiser, you ain't turning for shit. If something pulls in front of you, you're just along for the ride. Oh, but it's so much faster. Speed kills, man. No, not being able to take evasive action and move when something pops up in front of you is what's going to get you. Just as quickly as over judging your speed in the wrong place. Both of those are bad, but wouldn't you rather have the ability to see and avoid something? Right? So a sport bike is going to be better. So the original thing I was going to say is after having the R6 and the R1 and then the Ducati, I love the Japanese bikes. They're fantastic, but they're not flickable like the Ducati is. And if you watch all of the reviews where they got the super bike shootouts and stuff, the Ducati usually always comes out on top because when the reviewers are riding the bikes, they're always like, wow, there just isn't anything that feels like this. And I can confirm that after having these multiple different bikes. At least out of the ones I've had and other bikes that I've ridden, they don't feel as light on their feet. However, Rob's S1K does feel really nice. I must admit, it's set up the way he has it set up, but whenever I ride it, I didn't feel like I needed to change anything on it, which is quite amazing because we have a little bit of a weight difference between him and I. He's a little bit taller and stuff than I am. So even though our weight differences, size difference, his bike felt fantastic to me the way it was set up. So I do give a lot of credit to his bike in particular. For some reason, it just felt really good when I was riding it. Like I didn't need to change anything. It just felt really dialed. And that was very nice. Very pleasurable to ride it when it's like that. It just makes you feel real confident. It felt real stable, and it was still real light on its feet. That bike felt lighter on its feet than the R1 did that I had. So it would be the Ducati that I have now. Then it would be that S1K. and then the R6, and then the R1 after that as far as flickability goes. Tank's CBR 600 is not really that flickable at all. And here's why. Even though it's a 600, it's not because it's a heavy bike or anything like that. It has an electronic steering damper from the factory. And as you go faster, it brings it into full tight mode. So that when you're out on the highway and you're cruising and you're trying to go around cars, it doesn't, it's tight. It's not loose, which is good because a lot of new riders are going to be riding the CBR 600. And I will tell you right now, on the CBR 600, you are not going to get a speed wobble on that bike. You don't have to worry about it. That, out of all the 600s, that one comes with its factory electronic steering damper. The positive side is that for less experienced, younger riders that might get a speed wobble on a different bike, they're never going to get a speed wobble on that CBR because that steering damper gears up so tight whenever you go past 40 miles per hour or whatever that it makes it so stable. But the downside is that it takes away the flickability of the bike. It's not flickable. You have to plan out further where you're going to go with the bike, and that changes your riding style. It changes my riding style. So if you're an experienced rider and you know these things, you kind of get a feel of the bike. You can be like, okay, I'm going to need to plan a little bit further out with this bike than I would with the other bike. And when I'm on the duck, I can just move into certain spaces with full confidence that if something changes or moves, I'll be able to, get away from it just as quickly as it appears. But you still got to be smart about what you're doing, But, like I said, how smart is any of this? If you want to talk about smart, the smartest thing to do would be to not ride at all. Not ride at all. That's if you're trying to just live the most boring life you possibly can. Oh, yeah. So is always being on the side of 100% safety the smartest way to live? I don't know. I mean, it just depends, It just depends. Is life worth living if you live 100% about safety? I would say no. Nothing great was ever done. Nothing that was ever achieved in greatness was ever safe. It's never safe to do anything great. And that can apply with going against established ways of thinking on certain things, or doing something like breaking a land speed record on a motorcycle or something. I mean, that's another thing I wanted to talk to you guys about. That's another thing that I wanted to mention. Did y'all see, what's his name? Was it Jorge Martin or whatever that set the speed record on the MotoGP bike? This is important. This is something important I want to say. Who just set the fastest speed in MotoGP? I think it was Jorge Martin, right? Yeah, Jorge Martin. Okay, look right here. I'm going somewhere with this, y'all. This is important for me being right. Okay, and if anything proves me right, then of course it's of maximum importance. So, who just set the fastest speed in MotoGP? Jorge Martin set the all-time MotoGP top speed record, reaching an astonishing 368.6 kilometers per hour, which is 229 miles per hour. He achieved this during the practice session of the Italian Grand Prix at the Mugello circuit, riding a factory Aprilia RSGP. Fantastic. Martin's speed surpassed the previous outright record of 366 which was set by Brad Binder in 2023 and later matched by Paul Espargo. See Jorge Martin's historic lap and his reaction to breaking the world record. Now, this is vital right here. We're going to watch this.
368.6 kilometers an hour. That has been the previous record in MotoGP. Unbelievable. We were waiting for it. We were waiting for a new top speed record. Aprilia and Jorge Martin have delivered it.
Look at the smile. Look at this.
He's now the fastest rider in Grand Prix racing history. Yeah, there you go, Jorge. It's official.
Look, they're also happy and excited. Okay, so where am I going with this? Speed. I mean, what is racing? What is racing? It's a competition to see who's the fastest. Right? That's it in a nutshell. That's all it is. Who's the fastest? Let's go. And this is how we're going to perform the contest. On this particular contest, we're going to use motorcycles. And we're going to ride these motorcycles on this particular racetrack right here. And we're going to have a competition to see who can do it the fastest. Right? Oh, but speed is so bad. It's so bad, folks. Nobody should go for speed. Speed kills. Speed kills. And speed is so bad, so bad. But a huge part of our life is based on speed. Look at airliners, right? Why do people love airliners? Because you can get from one destination to another much faster, right? The whole point is speed. Speed is a big part. Look at the computer that you're using right now. Do you want a slow computer? No, I don't think so. You want a fast computer. Look at the Olympics where they're doing the 100-meter dash or whatever it is. Whoever's the fastest is like the greatest of all time, right? Speed is everything. Speed, 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 speed. Here at MotoGP, you remember how we were talking about how they're reducing the engine size of the bikes to 850, right? Because they were getting too fast for the circuit. Oh, they're too fast. We gotta slow them down. Can't you see it's bullshit? Right? That's total bullshit. I don't support the reduction of the engine size. We're not going to go too deep into this, but I just wanted to show you. It was something I was thinking about the other day, and the fact that you could see the teams were smiling and happy, the rider was happy, and that goes into the history books as being the greatest, right? Why does that matter? Why does it matter? It matters because it's a sign of achievement in technology from Aprilia, the manufacturer, right, which deserves a lot of credit. They're fantastic. And to the rider, the skill to make that machine do that speed at that particular place, more so than anyone else. So the accolades, the credit, the glory. Why is this glory even taking place? It's because of speed. Speed. Speed is not. People will say speed is bad. Oh, it's too fast. It's too fast. Speed is bad. But at the same time, it is hailed as greatness. So which is it? Well, it depends, Scott. If you go fast on the street, it's bad. But if you go fast on the track, it's good. Well, maybe. You might have a point with that. I don't know. But all I'm trying to say is, in this society, speed is important. And the main point that I'm making by bringing this up is the fact that I said that I don't think the riders are really wanting to go slower. Will he be the last person to break that record? Will he be? Will Jorge Martin go down in all of history as the fastest person ever in MotoGP from now until the end of time? Because with a smaller bike, with an 8, there ain't no freaking way an 850 is going to reach that speed, 229 miles per hour on that straight where he hit it, because it's not that long of a space. It's a very close course. It's small. It's contained, and the key, that bike will go faster than 229 miles per hour. That thing has over 300 horsepower, right? It's gonna go. It'll probably do 260 or something. I don't know. I don't know how fast it will go. But it will go faster than that because it hit 229 just on the back straight. But if you put that bike out on the highway and you just let her rip, you don't think it would hit 240 or some shit? 11 or 12 miles per hour faster? Oh, it certainly will. Oh, there's no doubt about it. That thing would go 240 easy. But what I'm saying is that speed was achieved on that particular spot in a constrained area, which means intense power and the ability of the rider to hold it open long enough to hit that speed before hitting the brakes and slowing down in enough time to make the turn. That's the keys. I guarantee he was using back brake too, by the way, in order to do that. So MotoGP is going to 850cc. So I guess he's going to be the all-time king for, now until the sun expands and consumes the earth in about 4 billion years from now, when the sun finally turns into a red giant and explodes and then collapses down into a white dwarf or whatever it is. Our sun isn't even going to be turning into a black hole. It's not big enough. Not big enough. So that sucks, At least I would like for our sun, when it finally goes, to actually be able to collapse down into a black hole, but we're not even getting that because our sun isn't big enough for it. So it's just going to collapse into a white dwarf and just burn for another 10 billion years or however long. But after all that time takes place, at the end of the white dwarf phase, when the universe probably just goes completely cold because it's expanding into nothingness, Jorge Martin will still have held the record even 8 billion years into the future, because some fools at MotoGP decided to reduce the size of the motor to 850 to ensure that it would never happen again, basically. But it doesn't seem like the riders want to go slower. It seems like they're just fine. And you see he's happy, he's going, woo, woo, woo. That's me, baby. I did that. See, and he gets the glory. But now, because they're shifting to 850 cc's, nobody else is ever going to have that chance. And so now, well, so-and-so is going to go the fastest on the 850, but it ain't going to be no 229 miles per hour. Not going to happen, right? It's highly unlikely. I mean, who knows? I mean, maybe they'll approve nitrous or something to be added to the 850s. Or will they approve a supercharger? Even I don't know. Would an 850 with a supercharger be able to do what the 1000? Wouldn't it be better to just keep the 1000 at that point instead of putting a supercharger on it? If you keep the 1000, you don't need a supercharger, right? Not that I have anything against superchargers, it just adds weight to the bike. Look how heavy the freaking H2 is, because it's got all that freaking extra stuff on it. Do, 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 do. Lucas says I'm an astronomer. Um, I do. I have been studying space as just a lay person, a layman. I'm not an expert by any means, but I am. I've been fascinated by space and the discoveries in space for a long time since I was very young. Yeah, I used to watch Star Trek with my dad whenever I was a kid because my dad's a pilot, right? And we've always had flying in our house, and just something about pilots. Think about traveling in space too. It's just like that. It's just like that for pilots. Having a like a spaceship of some kind would just be super cool. Um, just a cool idea. Sounds appealing. And then if you're into that kind of stuff, if you're raised like that, like I was, then you're just going to have a natural curiosity for what's out there. In the entire space, like all the stars and the nebulas and galaxies and black holes and all that stuff, neutron stars and magnetars and all this stuff. That stuff is amazing how it all works and how it's just amazing that it even exists. This is the reality that we live in. It's pretty intense when you think about it. And just the vastness of space and just the trillions of galaxies that there are. It's just the scale of it all is just beyond comprehension. It's just insane. And I don't know. It's just cool. It's cool. It's cool stuff. It really is cool. It's fascinating. And to think that everything we know and everything that we are just exists in this one little place, little speck throughout the entire universe. But here we are, and hopefully we'll make it. Hopefully we'll do good and make it and eventually get to travel in space at some point. The future of humanity kind of exists on it, depends on it. Because eventually there could be something happening here, like an asteroid could hit and just wipe everything out. So you kind of have to have the ability to, live elsewhere besides just one place, because it's just a matter of time eventually at some point. And then, like I said, the sun will eventually burn out. And as it does run out of fuel, which it will at some point, it's going to expand into what's known as a red giant. It's going to consume the Earth. It's going to expand out past our orbit. So, don't worry, folks. Don't worry. Everything's okay. We got about 4 billion years before that takes place. And I would think if humans don't if we don't kill ourselves and blow ourselves up first, we'll definitely have the ability to travel elsewhere at some point. So, and that's a nice thought. It really is. For me, it is anyway. A lot of people don't believe in space. Oh, it's not real. That's fake, man. We live on a flat Earth, and the sun ain't real. It's a light up there. It's a light. The moon ain't real. Blah, 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 blah. Morons. Of course it's real. Oh boy. Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the Starship Goat. I like it. So anyway, so that's our live stream for tonight, folks. That's our live stream. I will show you the weather just before I go. I'm going to show you the weather before I go. Okay, I checked it just a little while ago, and I'm going to check it again with all of you right now, and I'll show you what we have in store. This is what we have in store. Let me refresh. Oh, look at all that. Oh, isn't that great? So we're going to click on, we're in Tuesday now. We're going to go to precipitation. If I ride tomorrow, I'll probably get wet on my way home. That's not so bad. That's not so bad. That's not so bad. I ride in the rain quite a bit, folks. I'm quite used to it. Then if we go to Wednesday, this is a typical summer day, scattered. showers, light rain. See right here, scattered thunderstorms. Then light rain. Then Thursday, it's kind of the same, but for some reason they have the sun. It's not that much different. It's a little bit less. Thursday, sunny, but we still have some percentage here. And then Friday, not so bad. This is all rideable, I would say. It's all rideable. This is definitely getting wet in the afternoon, right? But these things are subject to change without notice. And then look at this, Sunday. So no riding on Sunday, according to this. Nobody showed up. Nobody came out yesterday, or Sunday, I should say. Everybody was lame. But Andrew said, I'll ride with you, Goat, anytime. That's cool, man. We can go ride, bro. We can go ride, bro. We will do it. So anyway, Bezzy says, thank you for the stream, Goat. It's very nice to see you on tonight. I hope you have a wonderful night. Thank you so much, Busy. Same to you. Same to you. Same to you. Linnell says, thanks, Goat. Thank you. I appreciate all of you being here. I love you all. Thank you so much. I've got another video coming. I have some ideas for some other videos and stuff too. So stay tuned. Stay tuned. We'll see how it goes. All right. Y'all have a great night, and God willing, we'll be back tomorrow. Okay? Take care. Peace. Peace. Peace.